What we'll do then is in today we'll do some positioning, right? So we'll do what would fall under module 1. I'll do some positioning, but I also want to take questions from you. So if there's anything that I'm saying, because you've both got experience in this field where you think you need clarification or anything that you want to challenge me on, then by all means do so. But let's get that base level of knowledge. Okay, so when we're going through the 27001 implementation, the first part, and obviously what we say and what I say in all the videos, is you have to get a copy of the standard, right? You have to get a copy of the 27001 standard. You have to get a copy of the 27002 standard. The challenge that we've got, and the challenge that everybody comes to when they purchase the 27001, the first challenge is it's a lack of content, right? So if you've seen it and you should have done and you've got a copy of it, my last look at it, I think it was around about 14, 15 pages of valuable content, and there isn't really a lot of guidance in terms of how to build that 27001 element, which is shocking, right? Because the certification process that we're going to go through is going to certify us against that management system, but we don't get a lot of advice and a lot of guidance on how to implement a management system. What we do get is Annex A, and we get the accompanying standard of ISO 27002, which is a list of common information security controls that have been seen to mitigate risks. And we get a lot of implementation guidance on the Annex A controls, which we're not certifying against. Right, so there's a little bit of confusion between the two about where it places its emphasis. So our first port of call is we're going to get ourselves a copy of the standard. We're going to understand what that standard is saying. A lot of people come to me from a technical background. A lot of people come from me from an information security technical background. You know, they may be involved in a pen testing, they may have been involved in a SOC or a threat intelligence, they may be coming from IT, and I'm mirroring and I'm hearing some of that coming from you guys, and they misunderstand what the standard is, right? So in real terms, 27001 is a management system standard. I say this on my videos, I say this on all my calls, it's not an information security standard. It's not actually designed to make you more secure. What it's designed to make you do is manage your information security in a way that you understand the risks and you're managing the risks associated with your implementation. That's all the standard is looking at. So what we're looking at doing is we're going to define what our scope is. We're going to define the thing that we want to protect. We're going to understand what the risks are to that scope, and we're going to apply some controls that maybe mitigate the risk, or we're going to accept the risk, right? But at no point are we going to say to people, you've got to put in multi-factor authentication, your passwords have to be 50 characters long, you've got to put in this level of encryption. The standard doesn't dictate that. The standard says you decide what it is. You decide what it is that you want to do. That's absolutely fine. You agree it, it's your risk, and as long as you're managing the risk, then you will pass the test. When it comes to the implementation, therefore, what I encourage people to do is to do the top-down approach, right, rather than the bottom-up. What do I mean by that? What I find in a lot of organizations is if somebody knows network security, they go, oh, we're going to do 27001, we've got to put in a host intrusion, a network intrusion, I've got to get an external pen test, all the things that they're comfortable with, and all the things that they want budget for because they've always wanted to do, they will piggyback and use the standard to do that, but drive from the bottom up. It's a mindset shift to think by working from the top, understanding what it is that our organization is hoping to achieve, and then filtering that down through the risk assessment and the control selection to understand that it's about risk management, right? And it can be a complete and a mind shift change. And it may be the case that some of the things that you thought were no-brainers, like implementing in host intrusion and network intrusion, the organization can accept the risk of not actually doing that, right? So we're looking at how we structure, we're looking at how we formulate. We're understanding that it's a risk-based management system. I'm going to see if I can share my screen and show you. So you've no doubt seen this. You've watched my online videos, you've watched my online trailers. But again, it's because Pierce is saying you've come from a different standard. I think it's worthwhile restructuring where we are. So when we're delivering in our 27001 because we're looking at this concept of what we call governance, risk and compliance. Governance, risk and compliance sits above information security. Information security is that tactical, hands-on, making sure that things are physically secure. Governance, risk and compliance sits above that to make sure that we're managing in an effective way, meeting our governance requirements, our legal requirements and our customer requirements. Whether or not you do 27001 or not, any organization should implement a governance, risk and compliance framework, but 27001 is as good as any, so why wouldn't we go ahead with that? So when we're talking to our clients, when we're talking to our organization, the end game may or may not be 27001 certification, right? So it is important in the early stages to clarify with our organization, how fast are we going for certification? It may well be the case that we just want to adopt the standard, we want to adopt the best practice, we want to be in a position to certify, but right now all we want to do is align with that particular standard. In that case, what we're going to do is start with the governance, risk and compliance framework, the management system, the clauses 4 through 10. So the way the governance, risk and compliance frameworks is we have senior management, and in our organization, it should be the case that our senior management are setting the direction for information security, right? They're either saying to you, yes, you need to have it. Yes, our clients need to have it. They're saying, you know, they're driving it. If we have a situation where we have an organization where it is you and you are either mid or junior within the organization that's driving it, the project will fail. Now, I don't know if you've seen it through your own experiences. You've seen any organization where an information security officer or a project manager has successfully driven a project through without the buy-in of the board or their management. No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Now, one of the biggest things that I see, and again, because I was doing it as a full time, right, for a long time, what I see is this is the biggest level of frustration that you're going to get. It's a bit of a segue really into the consultancy side of it, right? As a consultant or as an internal consultant, i.e. a full-time employee, our focus should be asking our business on what it is that their business wants to achieve. So I'm cutting across into that a little bit here, right? Rather than what you think your job is and imposing that on the organization, right? So the reason that we want that top level down is we want to understand what is it that my business is asking me to do. It can be a difficult mindset change again for an employee if the business says, I just want to pass the test, right? And they say that to a consultant, I just want to pass the test. I'm not really interested in being secure. I just want to pass the test. There's a commercial benefit in it. Get me through as fast as you can. Now, if you are either at loggerheads with that as an employee, i.e. you think, oh no, my business, my job here is to make this company like NASA, I've got to put in the top level of controls, I've got all of this experience, I'm going to do all of this, you're just going to butt heads, right? And at the end of the day, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to jump on LinkedIn and say, my business doesn't get it. My business doesn't want to do this. My business doesn't want to do that. They don't want to invest. Because what we're not doing is listening to what our senior leadership wants and enabling what our senior leadership needs to deliver, right? What the company will be saying to you is go away and do 27001. What they're not going to necessarily saying, unless you clarify it, is go away and make my life a living hell, introduce maximum levels of documentation, take my controls to the top nth degree and lock down systems so that even like NASA, nobody can get in. That's not what they're saying, right? On 9 times out of 10. So we need that senior leadership. We need that senior management buy-in. What we're going to do in our governance, risk and compliance is we're going to put in a mechanism that can deliver that. Now, again, one of the reasons that project fails is because we don't take people on a journey. Some of you guys have worked in larger organizations. I used to work for a company called GE. It was a large global organization. We did a load of different programs, Lean Six Sigma, but we also did huge amounts on change and change management and how you drive change. And driving 27001 into organization is a massive cultural change, right? You're going to be getting people to do things differently. You're going to be getting to drive them. And there is a humanistic aspect to that. Often, again, where a governance, risk and compliance or an information security officer will fall down. You cannot do this on your own. We need to bring people on the journey with us. We need to start to understand softer skills, softer management skills, how we can influence people, understanding what their pain points are so we can deliver against that. Now, this isn't the technicality of the standard. This is what Samuel, you were saying to me about the actual realities of implementing, right? The actual realities of doing rather than teaching about what needs to be done. So we're focusing here purely on getting people on board as soon as we can to help us to drive our program. We cannot do this in isolation. We need the management, senior leadership buy-in, and then under that, we need what we call a management review team to help us to deliver what we need to deliver. Now, the role of the management review team, it has a number of different roles, right? Ultimately, in terms of 27001, the role that it holds is an oversight role. Ultimately, it is performing a regular review following a structured agenda that covers very mandatory aspects of the standard, right? Ultimately. It's going to be looking at risk assessments. It's going to be looking at any changes to the management system, opportunities for improvement, etc. Internal audit, external audit reviews. Ultimately, but the sooner you can get the management review team in, the better, right? Even if the management review team meeting in an organization is just a hello, we are the management review team. Have a nice cup of coffee. I'll see you next month, right? Because 27001 is a change from an implementation point of view, we want to be getting that team in as soon as we can, and we want to be getting a rhythm by which they are meeting on a regular basis. My recommendation when it comes to a management review team would be at least every month. Now, it may be the case that in the early days of delivering a management review team, you want to do that weekly. You call it a pulse call. You don't have to tell the client or your business that it's a management review team. You could call it a security pulse call that then evolves into the management review team with the same people, right? You take them on a journey, small step through. Why would I want to do that? I want to do that because when I'm implementing my 27001, when I'm running it, I'm going to have certain things that need to happen, right? I've got certain milestones, I've got certain goals, and I am heavily reliant on other people. If I create a management review team that has one senior leadership representative from every area of the organization and one senior leadership from the senior management team, I have now complete coverage of the organization in terms of communication, right? I would always ask when I set up my management review team for a deputy. So I would seek whatever the person is to give me a deputy so that every meeting is at least covered by every department. And I would nominate somebody on that management review meeting to be the conduit up to the senior leadership, right, for the communication. So what do I have at that point? At that point, I've got a team that has a member from every department in the organization that has a deputy that may or may not be interested in what it is that I'm doing. They may not, right? They may be positive, they may be negative, but at least I've now got them named. I'm going to document who they are, and I'm going to get in their diary a regular meeting minute. We are, as professionals, as a sidebar, going to cover our arse, right? We are fundamentally going to cover our back no matter what happens. So every piece of every meeting that we hold, we're going to minute it. Potentially you're going to record it if that's the way you want to do it, in the way that I record these, because it's a great way of evidencing it. But we're going to create an audit trail of everybody's attendance, what was discussed and what was agreed. And that's why I say the sooner you start this, the better, because it can be the case, for example, that you go for certification, it's a 3-month project, you get to like 4 weeks out from the audit, you say to HR, okay, how's the information security training going? They say, what information security training? You never told me I need to do information security training. You say, I told you, we had a meeting, we discussed it. They go, I don't remember that. And then you're going to be on the back foot, right? So it looks then like from a project perspective that you haven't done your job. If you are setting out your management review team and on a weekly basis, you're setting the goals and you're showing those, and in a communal group environment, you are discussing with people what it is that you expect from them, and you are saying verbally out to the rest of the team, HR, okay, we discussed last week, you were going to do the policies. What is it that I can do to help you? I see you haven't done them, right? You're on the critical path. When do you think that you will do them? How can I help you with your job, with your problem? How can I help you to move forward? I'm just going to record that in the minutes that the HR, hasn't done the policies, and we'll regroup next week, right? So we're using that management review team from an implementation point of view to put a focus, to put a spotlight on people, whether or not, yes, they are or no, they're not doing their job. Carrot and stick, right? And but also we're covering our own back. At any point somebody says, like, Stuart, you never told us we didn't have an antivirus on anything. You go, I did. They said, no, you didn't. I go, yes, I did. I told you in this meeting on this day with these people that were in that meeting room. Here are the minutes, or here is the video recording, and we had it. Here is the actions that we agreed, and this is what the people did or didn't do out of the back of those actions. So we're going to put in that management review team, take a step back. We'll cover management review team again in a bit more depth in one of the other modules, but we've got it from an oversight point of view. In the context of this, what it's going to do is it's going to oversee and approve policies and procedures. So our management system, fundamentally, it's a documentation system, right? Everyone says, oh, you don't need to document it. Okay, try going in an audit with no documentation. You can do it. It's just going to be painful. It's going to take forever. It's going to raise more questions than it's worth. And ultimately, you're just going to need to document it anyway, right? But so we're overseeing and we're approving policies and procedures. Policies are statements of what we do, not how we do it. We're setting out to the organization from an information security point of view. For network security, this is what we do. For HR security, this is what we do. For clear desk security, this is what we do. So our first step is to get those policies in place. Once we've got the policies, the management review team is going to approve those, right? And they're going to oversee them. We have modules further on where we talk about how we get those policies written and over the line. But for now, policies are statements of what we do, not how we do it. What they also oversee are procedures. Procedures are statements of how we do it, right? Procedures are statements of how we do it. What we need are, from a 27001 point of view, is what they call process maturity. What process maturity is looking for, and it's aligned with 9001, the quality management system, is having a document process that is repeatable irrespective of whoever does it, and the output will always be the same, right? So what you will find in organizations, a lot of organizations, is that they do the work, right? They do a software code review, no issue. They do a change, no issue. But it depends on which person in the business does it, whether that person's on holiday or not. The output is varied. There is no documentation to prove it. So for procedures, what we're looking at here is about process maturity. Policies, what we do, procedures, how we do it. We separate out the two, right? Policies say what we do, not how we do it, because policies get shared externally. I have seen the case that a policy and a procedure are merged in the same document, but you've then got people's email addresses, internal email addresses. You've got process flows that may be bespoke to you that could highlight vulnerabilities in your systems. It just makes it cleaner to separate out what you do from how you do it. In addition to that, the how you do it may change dependent on a variable. So let me give you an example. If we have a patching policy and it says, what do? We patch our systems within in vendor agreed timelines. Our systems are always patched to the latest version. In the event that a patch can't roll out, we raise an incident, right? So that's what we do. How do we do it? Well, I've got Microsoft Office. I've got Microsoft Windows. I've got Linux. I've got Mac OS. I've got whatever, right? So I may well actually have 4 process procedures about how I meet the requirement of that standard, because the way that you patch Microsoft is different to how you patch Mac OS, etc. So we're getting some consistency, we're getting some structure to our documentation, and we're starting to understand that flow through. One of the questions that people ask me, again, is from a template point of view, well, why don't I get Annex A templates, right? Why don't I get Annex A templates? Well, you do in terms of the policy. I tell you what to do, but in the patching example, how can I tell you for every version of every operating system how to do it? I don't know every version of every operating system. There is an infinite number, right, of operating systems, but I can tell you how you do it. So what you need to do, you've then got to work out what operating systems you've got and how you do it. So once we've generated those policies and procedures, it is going to be the management review team that oversees that. And in a governance, risk and compliance framework, we apply that to our staff and our third parties. So we have a situation where we know what it is that we need to do and we know how we need to do it. We now need to communicate that to people so that they know that. Policies is probably one of the biggest examples. You can't expect somebody to do something if you haven't explained to them what it is that you want them to do, right? Now, training falls into this, but policies is part of your belts and braces. So that's why we work with HR to understand the role of policies within our organization, how we roll them out, and to what level we can hold employees accountable against them, right? But we have to explain to people what it is that we want them, what it is that we want them to do. We have seen the situation, and you probably have seen a situation where a data breaching can occur. A data breach either internally can occur with an employee, whether it's malicious or not. Your ability to respond to that, if you haven't communicated in evidence that you've explained to them what it is that they should do, is completely cut off, right? There's nothing you can do. They'll just say, oh, well, you didn't tell me I couldn't email the entire company's bank account system to my Hotmail account. You never told me that. Well, if you'd have told me that, then I wouldn't have done it, clearly, right? So you're going to end up in an incident management and a mop-up point of view, you're going to be in a bad position. So we need to tell people, we write what the policies are, we write what the procedures are, then we tell people this is what we expect of you. This is how we expect of you. This is what we expect of you. This is what it is that we want you to do. Now, when we write our policies and procedures under a 27001 management system, we're going to base our policies and procedures on risk. So Pierre said he came from a rule-based approach, right? So in a rule-based approach, your policies and procedures are based on the rule, i.e. you will implement characters of 24 characters long. They will have this level of whatever in it. Your encryption will be of this level, right? There is very little control that you have over that, irrespective of the risk. Cyber Essentials is another one. It just says you will have this, right? You're going to have it irrespective of the risk to you. You're going to go away and do it. There is a common sense approach to that, no issue, right? But if we're starting from a 27001 point of view, we're going to base our policies and our procedures on our risk. What is the risk to us? What is the risk to the scope? And again, we touch on that. We've touched a bit today. We'll touch on that a bit further down the line. If I have policies and procedures that are already in place that are based on rules, then it is likely that I will go with them. I am not going to dumb them down, right? 27001 is the base layer introduction. This is the bare minimum first pass through. If you've already invested in NIST, some level of SOC 2 control, PCI DSS, you're not going to dumb that down. What you're going to do is take that rule-based policy and rule-based procedure, enhancing the minimum requirement of 27001, and you're going to roll with that. Then you're just going to check that against the statement of applicability, Annex A controls, to make sure that that is aligned. So we've based our policies and procedures on risk, and clearly then they're going to be subject to audit. Now, audit within 27001 comes up many times, right? You're always auditing. It is probably one of the most overly audited systems that you've ever got. And from a customer point of view, a frustrating point of view of your customer and your organization, external audits will never stop, even though people believe that they will. So when we introduced information security standards into the marketplace, the idea was that you could place reliance on other people's work, right? You could place reliance on other people's certifications. We say, oh, it's a UCAS accredited certificate, and therefore I can place reliance on it. That was the idea. And what that meant then is that other organizations wouldn't audit you because there was no point in that, right? That's the golden Valhalla halls of glory approach to how we should be dealing with this, right? The reality of this is that you will get audited anyway. Any large organization that's worth its salt, any of the big four, any large retailer, any organization that employs somebody that does what I do for a living will look at your 27001 accredited certificate, go, okay, thank you. You may progress through the sales cycle to the next phase. I'm now going to audit you, right? Because I won't place reliance on a risk-based control system for my organization. The risk to my organization is too great. If I know the situation that you could have implemented a password policy with one password that never expires and accepted the risk, if I know that your certificate, behind your certificate, you may have implemented 0 antivirus because the cost was too high and the risk exposure to you was too low and you accepted the risk, that is unacceptable to me as your client. So I'm always going to audit you, right? So the level of audit that you've got, the first audit is internal audit. Internal audit has to happen on a regular basis. There are many different arguments. I'm not here to argue them. I'm telling you what will work. What will work is doing one internal audit of everything annually. That means clauses 4 through 10 and all of the Annex A controls. There would be an expectation that you would do that at least annually, once. Now, I have seen the case that people will do it once every 3-year cycle, and they normally get an observation or a non-conformity, but I am giving you the best way of doing it, the most standard way, what more normal organizations would do. What you're also going to do is within your planning, we will get to audit planning. You're also going to plan within your audits based on risk. So if you have an area that has either suffered an incident and therefore required a continual improvement or a risk management, or you have an area that's just risky to you, then you will internally audit more than once. We will cover the process of internal audit on another module, right? But the reason being is the more risky it is, clearly the more you want to check and make sure that everything is still working. And if we've just had an incident, I want to make sure that the remediation that I've put in is working effectively. And it may well be that I want to internally audit that for 3 months just to get a sense check that everything is going in the right way. But we will talk about that planning further on. Just for now, understand the concept, we have to do an internal audit. Before you go for an accredited certification, an accredited certification is a certification with an accredited certification body. It's not the only game in town and it's not the only approach to certification. But if you are going to go that route, then it is a requirement that you have done one internal audit before your stage 1. There will be an expectation from the UCAS or the whichever of the accredited certification bodies that you have conducted one internal audit and shared those results with the management review team. Now, my advice is, as always, when I take a client through, you can do it however you want, but my advice is to try and get a clean internal audit. So I will build and build and build, get a system so I know that it's perfect. Then I will do, at that point, I will do my internal audit when I know it's going to pass, probably a week, 2 weeks, maybe before my external audit. It can be the case that you do your internal audit when you know things are broken or you know things aren't quite in place. And then you're just creating bureaucracy for yourself because you've got to document that, document change, document management review. You've got to then do another internal audit of it anyway, just to prove that the thing that was broken was fixed, right? So I'm not saying my way is the right way, it's how I do it. I just like a clean, I like to know that everything is in place, do an audit of it, and then go for my external cert. Play around with that, we'll talk about that when we get there. Other variations of audit, external audit of the certification body. So that's going to come up, right? We're always going to get certified by the external certification body. Again, it can be accredited or it can be unaccredited. We're going to get externally audited by our customers and our clients, again, dependent on the volume, the size that they are and depending on what sector they're in. And the frequency of that can change. I've had clients with HSBC send 4 people in for 10 days into a 20-person development company. It can be overkill, right? I mean, it really does, but it depends on what risk you represent to them. So you're going to get externally audited by customers and clients, and it may be the case that you get externally audited by a regulator. Maybe, right? So you've got to be always prepared for those levels of external audit. We've got our policies, we've got our procedures, we're basing them on risk, we're subjecting them to internal audit, and that is going to lead into continual improvement. We also know that staff and third parties have incidents. What do I mean by incidents? Incidents are deviation from the norm. We know that, you know, it may be that somebody's going to tailgate. It may be that somebody's going to leave something on a bus, leave something on a train, in terms of a laptop. We know that, you know, under pressure, somebody might give somebody an admin account because this client presentation at 10 o'clock needs it and we had to push it through. It might be that we didn't follow our change management process because it was a hot patch and it had to go right now. Many reasons why we have deviation. Not all of them are bad, not all of them are wrong, but we know that we have them. And therefore, what we have is incident management that can lead to continual improvement. That means we have deviated from our policy, we have deviated from our procedure. We now need to do something about that and consider continual improvement. What continual improvement is the concept within 27001 that nothing is perfect. And actually, again, it's very, very lenient, especially on organizations in the early days, as long as you've got the bare minimum in. It understands that, and it understands that things improve over time. Our requirement when we're delivering that is to show the evolution of that continual improvement. So the way that we can do that is we can show, for example, our version control. in our version control for documents. It can explain what the evolution was. We can show that within our management review meeting minutes or other meeting minutes where we're discussing what those changes are. The management review meeting that is approving those changes, we can document that. We can show that continual improvement. We can show continual improvement through our ongoing internal audits. So the level of improvement between audit A, B, C, D, E over time, we should see a shift in improvement in there as well. But the basis is 27001 is based on the concept of continual improvement. We're always improving, we're always getting better, and we feed that back into the management review team again that will approve that or not, or accept the risk. So one example might be our continual improvement is we believe that we need to now invest in this new piece of fancy software, and it's going to cost 50 grand. You take that back to the management review team, they may say no. They may say no, we accept the risk. That's fine. As long as our management system is documenting and recording that risk management, that's absolutely fine. But that's the overseeing and the oversight within it. So the final part of structuring, based on your two experiences, is what we're looking at here is putting in this base layer, right? 27001 as the management system, it's the base layer, it's the management system. I keep saying it's how we manage, it's the foundation stone. What we're then doing is we're bolting on the modules of the standards that you have experiences of already, be that SOC, be that GDPR, whatever data protection within your jurisdiction, be that PCI DSS. There are new standards coming, right? New standards. Is it 27,000 and I don't know, 2 cloud? I should be up on these, I'm not. But there's a new one, the privacy one landed a year or two back. There's a new cloud one. What you will find is that any of those standards, all they are is a tweak to the Annex A controls. The commonality of the management system across, in fact, across 22301, 9001, 27001, and then these new standards that are coming in, the commonality is they're the same, right? They all have the concept of internal, external issues, interested parties, risk management. They are all the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to bolt on our additional requirements to enhance the controls that 27001 allows us to be very lax if we wanted to. So PSC's example from the rule base, again, taking the controls that you had in there and then transposing those into your framework of how you're managing risk, but your management system is going to be the same irrespective of each of those controls. So that's how the structure of the standard hangs together. And again, I'm not probably telling you things that you already know. From King's point of view, you know, you've taught it. How you teach it again is slightly different again to how you implement it, and you'll see that as we go through, you know, the structure of how we combine certain things. The speed that we can get from a book point of view is slightly different. The only takeaway that I would give you out of this module really is it's very people focused. You have to get people online. It's basic human nature, it's basic human change management. If you say to somebody, you will do this, why? Because 27001 says it, brick wall. If you say you're going to do it because I say you're going to do it, I'm your CISO, you're going to do it, you're going to hit a brick wall. And the standard won't teach you people management. It won't teach you things like stakeholder analysis, understanding the power behind the power. Right, my boss may be my boss, but my boss may have zero power, right? They may be a puppet. Who is the person actually behind the scenes that needs to get the work done? Who is it that I need on side so that I can get this particular project over the line? And within the concept of that, again, touching on what I'm going to talk about on consultant, is your job, our job is to translate the requirement of the company, understand the rules of the game, whatever the standard, whatever the framework is, understand the rules of the game and manipulate the rules of the game to meet the needs of the business. Our job is not to take the rules of the game and make our business weep by imposing on them something that they do not want, right? My value, my money, my pay check comes in understanding what PCI or understanding what 27001 wants from you, understanding what you want, and then getting you through the middle, right? Because like there's many different ways to approach anything. We can approach it in many different ways. But if I can show you the route that navigates you through in the fastest way or in the more secure way, you say, no, I want to be NASA. Okay, that's fine. Then we'll go this route, right? That's where our job as a lead implementer comes in. But yeah, if we follow the structure of the, oh, I went on a lead implementer course and they said I need to do this, you're going to have a struggle, right? You're going to have a struggle. So in terms of today, that's the first session based on your background and your experiences. I don't know if you guys want to share any of your experiences that would help each other out, whether or not you want to give me any observations on what's worked well, or if you've got any questions for me.
So far, I don't have any questions. That was very valuable actually to me. Although I was watching many of your videos already, there was quite a few new stuff, also hands-on experience. I like it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. King?
Yeah, yeah, thanks for that discourse there. That was very, very good and concise. I think what I've come across is organizations where there are you have a pre-existing certificate and they're trying to expand the scope of ISO 27001 and then bring in those other portions of the business in.
Yes.
It's I've seen and I've had pushback in then having to then expand that management review team, and it's the dynamic of that, which is I guess a bit more of a people problem than a standard issue. Always.
It's the standard itself is absolutely easy. The management system, if I put my head down, I could build your management system for an organization, even a multinational organization. I could build it in a day. My worst case is I'm going to take my time. It'll take me 5 days, right? The management system, clauses 4 through 10, it's exactly the same for any organization, and it's absolutely easy, and there is absolutely no problem with it. The variation comes when we're looking at the Annex A controls, because the maturity of processes will vary. So if you're bringing in a new part of the organization, their process maturity might be slightly different. But it's people. Ultimately, it is people. So the dynamic and understanding. I had a call recently. We have just acquired this company. We have just bought them out. We are wondering whether or not they should be in our certificate or they should go separate. And I'm like, have a thought in your head about the emotions that you're dealing with here, right? You've just bought a company. You've just made a load of people redundant in that company. You've come in and said, I am now in charge of information security, when they used to have somebody. You said you're going to report to me and you're going to be 27001. How does that message sound, right? It sounds like you're butting heads already, right? Mm-hmm. What it has to be is you have to understand the nuances and the delicacies of what you've done. Now, it may be the case that feeds into how you approach it. I may want to, from a soft skills point of view, allow them to certify on their own first. And then maybe in 2-3 years down the line, then I want to include them in the scope of what we're doing. Maybe. Now, there'll be a cost associated with that, but the benefit of that gives them a level of feeling of control over it. So the people side of it, I can understand. Oh, there'll be, it may well be protectionism. Company A that bought out company B doesn't want company B sat in that management review team making decisions. We want to tell them what to do. Right, we're going to tell them what to do. They're going to have, how dare they decide what antivirus they want? Corporate, everybody's got McAfee, everybody's got Bitdefender. I'm just going to tell them. But from a people point of view, that's where you're going to butt heads and fail. You're going to get frustrated because they're not going to do it. They're going to get frustrated because you're forever telling them what to do, and you're never going to get it across the line. So the standard is easy. The standard says just do it, but the people part will kill you. And people say to me, oh, we're a small organization, 10, 20 people. From a 27001 point of view, at 10 people, you're massive. You've got 10 variations, 10 opportunities to fail. Even on a basic level, I say, right, 2 people, I'm going to train everybody in information security. 2 people, we'll do it now. 10 minutes, we're done. 10 people, it's getting a bit harder, right? Because this guy over here doesn't want to do it. This lady over here doesn't want to do it. She's on maternity leave. 50 people. Okay, now I've got 50 opportunities for things to go wrong, right? So it isn't the standard, it's the people, it's about the relationships, and it's about the mechanics of how you treat people and drive them through change. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. Because I have experienced that, as well as in some older organizations, you have situations where security was actually being managed by, maybe a portion that was still physical security. So they managed technical portions of, you know, technical security as well, and some information security portions, but now you're trying to align everything into a larger structure, and there's a lot of pushback and such there. So that's interesting.
Of course. Yeah, it's people, right? People. And again, another structure that you see a lot is the CIO, the head of IT, gets given it. And you've got an instant conflict of interest straight away, right? Because they're trying to do two things that compete with each other. The minute it goes to the head of IT, it's game over, right? Because they're never going to prioritize your security work as a rule over their ability to deliver the infrastructure and the services and the software development. Yeah, and as a rule, yeah, they're not big advocates for the security side of it as a rule. But okay, guys, so hopefully that added in some value. I'm going to see how it goes. As I say, the approach would be 6 sessions repeating. The idea would be that this session would repeat, but each time we repeat it, there'll be a different perspective with different people on the call. So it really drives it home. If somebody said to me, how quickly could you get through it? You could probably get through the implementation in 6 sessions. But the value comes in repetition, right? If we go to the gym, we repeat, we build our weights, we get stronger. That is the value in this. Hearing something over and over and over again with different perspectives so that it sinks in and makes you the best that you can be. That may not be what you want, and that's fine. Just hit each session once. But if you want to be a good consultant and learn from other people and learn from me, then in that program, you would continue to drop in. So that's it for today. I think a couple of sessions. It might just be me and Pierce on the next one. I'm just trying to get a flow of whether or not the mechanics of booking and all that. So yeah, nice and easy. So not a lot of people around on this one, but thank you for your support today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Stuart.